Now it's time for me to show you how to trade leverage on the actual exchange. The first one I'm going to show you is Bybit. So once you've opened your account and you've signed in, you have a basic understanding of where everything is, you want to come to this section called derivatives. And then you want to select USDT. That's just the pair that you are trading to. Remember, leverage is purely dollar based. You don't own the token. You're literally saying the price is going up or down, and if you get it right or wrong, you're winning or losing in dollars. Very simple. The second reason we use USDT is there's a lot of volume and liquidity. So when you want to enter and exit a trade, it's very easy. Now, if you have a look, as soon as you clicked on that section, you're going to have a very basic dashboard. It may look a little bit confusing, but let me simplify it for you. In the top left corner is where you're going to select your token. So if you see BTC, you can search any token that you're looking for, and ultimately you can even go through all the different amounts of tokens that you get. This is why we love Bybit very much. It has a very wide range of tokens, and many tokens can be traded on leverage. Now, you can basically choose if you want to trade to the USDT pairing or the USDC. They're both stable coins, but ultimately USDT is the one that has the more liquidity. So you can select USDT perpetual, and you can find all the tokens that are purely traded with USDT. Now, for example, I'm going to be using Bitcoin. Then after that, once you've selected your token, you'll see the price. You'll see all the little bits of information of 24-hour change. These are all little things that you can pay attention to if you want to. Ultimately, you're focusing on price. Below, they actually give you a chart, which is nice because you have TradingView where you're going to do a lot of your dirty work. It's actually your messy charts. And what I mean by that is where you're experimenting, where you're trying all the different styles. And then you've made up your mind that this is the one that I'm going for. And what that allows you to do is you're able to do the same features on the actual Bybit chart. You have all the tools. You can select your tools, you can draw your lines, you can ultimately erase all of the mess that you just made on your trading view, and you can clearly plot down your actual trade, where you are buying, where you're putting your stop loss. And what's beautiful about that is when you buy or you put a stop loss, it actually shows you the levels of where your position is on the actual chart, which I'll show you shortly. But ultimately, you have all the same tools and you have the same time frames at the top. You can even add indicators, which is nice. But the way I do it is keep this chart clean and simple. Use your trading view as the one where you get quite dirty. Then on the right side of that, you'll have your order book. This is just people placing buy and sell orders. Very simple. You don't really need to know too much on that. Then what you have on the right, this is where the magic happens. This is where you actually start to take your trades. So the first thing I want to explain to you is this little section called isolated. If you click on that, now you have two options to trade with when it comes to leverage. You got one that's called cross. For me, this is the higher risk and higher reward sort of way of trading, but ultimately it's not one that I'm going to say you should be using. If you're more experienced and understand it, yes, but what it basically means is when you enter this account, it's a separate wallet from any of your other wallets. This is not connected to your spot wallet. It's not connected to anything else. So ultimately, whatever money you put in here, if anything happens to that money, it does not affect the rest of the money exchange, which is very important. But secondly, what it means is if you put $300, for example, into this account, and you only want to trade $100 of it, if your trade really goes wrong, it will actually take from that $300. Even though you only put $100 in, it will use all the collateral. And ultimately, if the trade goes really wrong against you, it can liquidate everything that you have in that account. Secondly, if you have multiple trades, for example, you have a Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a Cardano trade, and your Bitcoin and your Ethereum trade are doing well, but all of a sudden something happens to Cardano and it goes really, really, really bad and against you. If that one gets to liquidation, it closes all your positions. It liquidates even your other two trades, which is very scary. Now, the pros to this is that when you start making profits, let's say the trades go with you, and what actually happens is they add the dollars, your profits, they actually put it into your wallet and you're able to reinvest that. So it means if you have $300 and all of a sudden you're in a profit of another $300, you can actually take that other $300 profit and you can add it to the position, and ultimately you can keep building this big position on money that you don't have, which can work when you're really experienced. But guys, it is super risky. You don't want to make a mistake and all of a sudden it destroys everything. And that's what gets me to the isolated section. Now the isolated section is my favorite because it basically means whatever money you have taken to put into that trade does not affect anything else. So for example, if you have $300 and you open 3 trades, $100 in Bitcoin, $100 in Ethereum, $100 in Cardano, does not matter what happens if one goes bad, it won't affect the rest. And what's also powerful about it is if you have any spare money in the actual account and that trade goes wrong, and let's say that trade liquidates, it won't liquidate all of the funds. Now, the only benefit you don't get is if you've opened the trade, you cannot make that trade bigger. So the only way you could make that trade bigger is if you actually close the trade and you retake another one. So cross allows you to compound going upwards, where isolated doesn't, but they both have pros and cons to both, because if it goes wrong on cross, it liquidates everything, where on isolated, it will only liquidate that pure actual trade. So for me, getting into leverage and understanding it, isolated should always be your option. It's a safer option and it's the more consistent option. Now, the second thing below that, you will see something called leverage long and leverage short. So guys, why I'm explaining this to you, because it's very important. Remember that story I told you where I left money in my leverage account and I ended up losing all of it? It was on cross. And that was the big problem. The trade went against me and it sucked all of the liquidity and all the capital that I had in there, and I ended up losing everything. Guys, don't make these silly mistakes. It's very simple. And remember, you're putting what you can afford to lose. Ultimately, free money. I want profits from your other accounts. I don't want you putting any waste money in here. I want non-emotion trading. I want you to become a robot. Very, very, very important, guys. Understand, isolated, understand you are in control. Risk management is fully on you. Now let's jump into the next section. And below that, you will see 2 options. You have leverage long and you have leverage short. Now, remember the example I showed you where you have $100, and if you do 10x, it's $1,000 that you're playing with. That's the amount of ammunition that you have. This is how you select it. You can actually select the amount of leverage. Now, the way you select it and the way you understand this is whatever X you choose is basically equivalent to when the market moves 1%, you have to times it by that amount is what you'll either win or lose. So for example, if I select long on 6, it means I'm 6 timesing the amount of money that I'm looking to trade with. But if the trade goes against me by 1%, it means I lose 6% of my capital. If it goes with me and I win, it means I win 6%. And it's the same if I drag this more. If I drag this, let's say to 10, I don't even want you to even look at the other half of this. Never, ever, 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 ever go more than 10, ever. This is where they trap you. They try to trick you and they try, like, ignore it. It's not even there. It's gone. But ultimately, if I go to 10 now, it means if I get the trade right by 1%, I actually make 10% capital. If I get the trade wrong by 1%, I lose 10% capital. Very, very simple to understand. And what they've done is they've actually given you the option of selecting the difference between long and short. So ultimately, if you're trading a 5x on your long, you usually will be doing the exact same on the short. You're not really going to have them different to each other, but it is a nice feature to have if you want to change it up or change something with long or short. Maybe sometimes the market's looking really short and maybe you want to take a cheeky long in between that, maybe a 2x. But if it gets to the area, you want to 5x the short. Guys, the more X does not make you more money. Consistency and building account does. So don't try to be clever. You're only fooling yourself if you're trying to go more and more. So be very responsible with this. You want to be consistent. So once you've selected that, you will choose, I will go 5x and 5x as example, and I'll click confirm. So now my account is isolated. So it means whatever I enter trades, it's only going to focus on that. And if I long or short from here, it'll be a 5x. It'll be 5 times the amount of capital that I have or that I've put into the trade. That will be the power, the ammunition that I have for the actual trade.